Great to be with you this morning. And we are going to be talking about a digital fast, a digital detox, a massive reduction in the access that we choose to have over a 28-day period of time. I wonder how you feel about that. Some of you, yeah, okay. There's 1.5 of you that are very excited about this. Some of you are like, yes, I can't wait to do this. Some of you are not excited. You're not really that interested or that motivated at this point. Some of you are kind of uncertain. It's been kind of fun whenever I've laid out to somebody just in conversation, some at the church, some that don't go to church at all. And I said, hey, we're doing this 28-day digital fast. And everybody has a response. Nobody just goes, oh, nice, next. They all have this kind of like quizzical look on their face. And they kind of want to know, what is that? What do you mean by that? And you can tell there's a bit of intrigue. And they're trying to sort through, man, would I do that? Would I not do that? Today's teaching is about this experiment that we're going to step into. But I want to start with a story about my wife. By the way, if we haven't met, welcome again. It's awesome to have you. I'm Kainu. It's my privilege to pastor here at Vancouver Church. My wife, Diana, she's not here today. She's out of town, but I promise you it's a true story, okay? You can verify when she gets back. So she was a teenager, and she had this just intense pain in her gut. Now, her family was not a go to the hospital or even go to the doctor type of family, but she was hurting so bad that she went in, and the nurses, they suspected, okay, this is probably an appendicitis, and there was no doctor in the hospital at that time, so they said, well, when he comes in the morning. Well, she's just going through this pain all night long, and they don't think it's that bad, because her pain tolerance is very, very high. The doctor comes in, and he just freaks out. He just starts yelling, get her to emergency surgery right now. So they take her in. They successfully remove the appendix. And then after her being up all night long, she's in her bed, and she's slightly sedated, and she is laying there, and then she hears the nurses. And the nurses are like, hey, we need to hear from you. Can you share a few words? Okay, can you say something? Okay, we really need you to speak. And in her mind, she's hearing these words, but you know those dreams where you go to answer and your mouth won't move? That's what she's doing in her mind. She's like, I cannot, really, I'm trying. And they said, move a finger, do something. We've got to get you awakened here. And so finally, she just, with everything she has, she digs down because they're saying, say something. And she's like, I can't. She just yells it out. And then the nurses who were talking to someone else all ran over to her. They were talking to another patient. And they said, are you doing okay? And she had a hard time, but she expressed that it was difficult for her to talk. And they said, oh, well, we weren't talking to you. We were talking to them over there. Diana was exhausted from surgery, and she was mildly sedated. Social scientists and anthropologists have discovered that our fixation with technology and devices leads to a state similar to that of mild sedation. When you're mildly sedated, you don't really fully comprehend what's going on, do you? Like you can hear words come in, you're maybe seeing images move by, but you are not necessarily seeing reality. All this technology is leading to so many being numb, exhausted, lonely, not fully awake, not fully present, not fully alert, but kind of sedated. Now let me begin with a confession as we approach this experiment that we're going to have, that I don't feel great about my relationship with my phone and my screens. I definitely look at them too much. I know a lot of best practices, like you should not have your phone in your room with you at night, but mine's right there. Sometimes I wake up and where is it? It's under my pillow. In the morning when I get up, if I see a news story, it's very difficult for me not to just click, right? I want to know what happened. And it isn't always the best way to start your day when you find out about some world tragedy, right? These are practices that aren't great. I use my phone as an alarm clock. And there are many practices that would be better, I'm sure, for my life. As we step into even this very first talk on this subject, I just want to unashamedly tell you what my goal is for this. And it is to passionately invite you into a 28-day experience of digital detox, like reducing the amount of screen time, especially for entertainment, in your life. You know, later we're going to explain a bit more about what this all means, but March 16th is when it kicks off, 2 Sundays from now, and we'll run it through April 13th. And what if I told you that all the people that have done this fast, we're glad they did it. Like 100% said, I gained value from it. I wonder if you'd believe that. You know, Darren Whitehead, he's the author of this workbook and actually a book, and he's pastor of Church of the City in Nashville and Franklin and in downtown. They did this as a church, and we're leaning very, very heavily on them and their resources for this entire series. But in their experience, everyone who tried it found it valuable. They didn't have a report of a single person that said this was a negative, bummer experience, but all reported it was a positive experience. Now, you don't have to join us in this. It's entirely up to you. But I personally, I'm looking for a reboot of my habits and my relationship with my devices and my digital diet. You know, we did fasting earlier this year in January, right? And that always changes some things. It gives us some perspective. That's what we're trying to do on the digital level. And I'm curious to see what it's going to do within me. What would you be like without 28 days of entertainment screens, okay? Some of you would say, I'll see you in heaven. It's going to finish me off. So, you know, for me, I don't know if, so my phone's in my pocket all the time. And every now and then, you know, it's turned off, so it's just on buzz, right? It's not on ring, it's on buzz. And every now and then I'll be like, oh. And I reach back, my phone's not even in my pocket. I swear I have these phantom rings and buzzes that take place. I'm curious if those are going to go away. Let me mention what this digital fast is not. It's not these 4 things. It is not, it's going to show here any minute, okay, not anti-technology. We know there's great value to technology. It's not suggesting you do a digital media fast for life, okay? It's 28 days. We're not suggesting that you throw away your smartphone, and we're not suggesting that you abandon your responsibilities. Don't call into the office. Love to come into work, but 28-day fast with my church, very spiritual. I'll see you in a month. Don't do that. We're suggesting that you take 28 days to self-observe what happens in you and your relationships, in your friendship, with your neighbors, in your family. And for 4 weeks, we want to guide you in a church-wide digital media fast to let your nervous system detox a bit. And that's going to happen 2 weeks from now that we'll kick it off. Many of you are going to celebrate the season of Lent kicking off this Wednesday, right? We're inviting you in the final 4 weeks of that to make some sort of digital detox a part of your Lenten practices. And as we turn our attention from those distractions, we want to guide you towards some things to pay very close attention to, especially the words of Jesus. John 10:10, very famous statement. It says this, the thief comes only to kill and steal and destroy. And then Jesus says, but I have come that they may have life and have it to what? Yeah, to the fullest measure that you can experience life. And everybody's looking for that. And we're starting this series called The Digital Fast and taking several weeks to investigate the impact of the devices and technology on us. And how's it going to change how we interact? Think about the playbook of the enemy that's detailed in John 10:10 in the first half. Speak this out loud with me. Here we go. The thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. These are the words of Jesus as in the context of him saying, I'm a shepherd, I'm a good shepherd, I'll take really care of you. But there's an enemy, and that enemy absolutely wants to trash everything about your life. Jesus, he goes on to say, he says, I'm the good shepherd, and the sheep hear my voice. Sometimes in the sea of all the scrolling, what do we lose? But the ability to hear the voice of Jesus. And we want to regain that. We want to elevate that. We want to take that up higher. Now, my first phone, at least the first one that I remember, is this, the Nokia. Anybody recognize this ancient piece? For those of you that are younger, you may not even know this, but the ancestors of this phone had a tail. Just to get into the wall. The Nokia, that was my first, but it wasn't a smartphone. Smartphones have creeped their way into our lives. Take a look at the first one from Apple. There's the iPhone, but even at that point, there were no news apps, no Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, no Snapchat, no Be Real, no dating apps. Okay. We have since had 15 or so versions of the iPhone. You can watch those as they traveled and evolved through time. And I do recognize there are Android users here. I want to welcome both of you. But you are the faithful. You're like the Jedi warriors against the Death Star. Keep the faith. My smartphone, well, I got my smartphone as an adult. I wonder, raise your hand, you got a smartphone as an adult. That's when you got it. Okay, you got a smartphone as a college student. Is there anyone? You got a smartphone as a high school student. Okay, middle school student. All right, elementary student. Before elementary. Right here. Here's a little picture that speaks of some generational. Today's 3-year-olds can switch on laptops and open their favorite apps. Me, when I was 3, I ate mud. Crazy things, it's true. I don't know how I got that selfie, but now, we've never done a series like this, but we want to take a look at the habits. We want to see the patterns. We want to see how our devices affect us. And you're likely at the end going to keep your smartphone unless an angel comes down and says, Chris, give me the smartphone. I'm going to keep mine, okay? I just hope that I have an adjusted way that I'm going to deal with it. Because we got to be smarter about how we use our phones and how our phones use us, right? The price of your device, that's the title of today's sermon. And it's not the monthly payments of your phone. That's the smallest cost. The true cost is in our relationships and our spiritual formation and our mental health. And we want to take a serious look at that and consider this. Is it possible that we're trading away the infinitely valuable for the remarkably trivial? And that God is calling us to a higher vision, to a deeper life. And I'd like to use those 3 words, steal, kill, and destroy, and see how those might be applicable to American life in 2025. We'll look at the first word. It's steal. And it is, in Greek, it's klepto. Can you say that with me? Klepto. Yeah, you recognize that word, right? It's a kleptomaniac. It's actually a compulsion where you can't keep yourself from stealing. And this Greek word, in Greco-Roman culture, it was a word used to describe stealing in a very strategic and clever way, meaning that you could take away from the person without them ever knowing. It has this emphasis of secretly stealing. Does that sound familiar? The tactic of the enemy in Greek mythology, the gods who could steal the best, who could klepto the best, they were praised and celebrated in their ability to steal. The first tactic of the enemy is this, to secretly steal. Ephesians 5 speaks against this. This has nothing to do with fruitless deeds of darkness, but rather do what? Expose them. That's the attempt of this talk, is to bring out the shadow side of what can be a very good thing, technology. Tristan Harris, a former product philosopher at Google, framed up what's at stake when he said the tech industry is in an arms race for people's attention. He went on to say that as a general rule, most technology is intentionally designed and engineered for 2 things, for distraction and then addiction, because that's where the money is. Any of you heard of the attention economy? That is a multi-trillion-dollar business, getting your attention. Seth Godin, he said, your phone doesn't work for you, but you work for your phone. Our phones, they work for Google, they work for Apple, they work for Facebook, and on and on. We want to believe that we are the customer, but that's not the business model. We are actually the product. We are being delivered to these ads, and we are being purchased. Our attention is being monetized. It's being turned into money. Now, big tech knows the value of our excitement and our anger and our lust and our curiosities. And so those companies, they use that knowledge against us, and they begin to design these products and algorithms to cultivate digital addiction. Neil Postman wrote a book in 1985 called Amusing Ourselves to Death. It's amazing what this guy perceived way before his time. He said that the entertainment television would impact two major areas of our culture. One is politics and the other is religion. In politics, he predicted that TV celebrities would replace educated, intelligent, wise leaders. In the religious realm, he predicted that depth and discipleship would give way to superficial, feel-good spirituality. Commercialized entertainment media radically shapes human beings. I mean, have you ever found yourself, you get the text, it comes in, so then you just click over to check the weather, and then without even thinking about it, go to another one of your apps. Perhaps you go over to Instagram, and on there you see the surfer on this massive wave, and then it goes to another one, and there's a reels, and this guy's doing motocross. You're like, wow, that's pretty cool. You walk it a little bit longer, and you see a science experiment with Mentos and Coke. Then you get a quote from Dr. Phil, and then there's a dude playing pickleball, and he scored the point of a lifetime. So you got to share that with somebody. It goes on, a magic trick happens with an egg. There's a little snippet from The Simpsons. There's an audition for Britain's Got Talent. You're like, how does she sing like that? And on and on and on. Anybody relate? And 37 minutes is gone. Like that. There's something actually happening in your brain the way it's being stimulated and drawn in again and again and again. Think about clickbait. It's sensational, ridiculous, and misleading, usually. Tricks to get you to open an image, a video, an article, or something like that. You see the headlines that says, Harry Styles suffers from stretchy skin. And you're like, I have to see this. So you go in, and you see some dude from 1902 that's got stretchy skin. You're like, that's not Harry Styles. And you go to the next one, and another guy that's got stretchy, and you're like, you never get to Harry Styles. And if you ever do, you find out that he's like, I prevent stretchy skin with this cream. You're like, ah. But we take the what? Yeah, the bait, over and over. We get sucked down into a wormhole of worthlessness and mindless trivia. Psalm 119, the Word of God. If you're exploring faith, we try to align ourselves with the Scriptures. And they say this, they say, turn my eyes from looking at worthless things and give me life in your ways. Not in the ways of the society, but in your ways. According to a survey conducted in 2021, nearly half the respondents stated that on average they spent 5 to 6 hours on their phone every day in addition to any work they do on their phone. 45% of teens now say they're online on an almost constant basis. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, late night, homework, anywhere, sports, sitting on the bench. Just to show you the scale of this, world population, it's a fair estimate to say it's 8 billion people, and the estimate is that 5 billion smartphone users that means 62.5% of the world has one of these. Had the privilege of going over to Tanzania recently through a ministry partnership, and there is this ancient culture of the Maasai people, and they're nomadic. Like they move their villages around, and they move their cattle, and they move their sheep around. And they have these beautiful, bright, I think we have an image, beautiful, bright robes. They'll be blue, orange, red, yellow, all sorts of colors. And they make these. I was driving down the road, and I see one of these guys leaning against a tree on his smartphone. I'm like, Pokemon Go in Tanzania. We lose so much time in the black hole of a device, but it's not just time. We lose our capacity to pay attention, don't we? Very few of us have the power of a sustained attention. In fact, our attention span is dropping all the time. Average American right now is down to 8 seconds in their attention span. A goldfish attention span is 9 seconds. We're getting beat by goldfish. And today, man, our church, we try, and there's lots of healthy churches out there. What we're trying to do is to follow Jesus. We're trying to be formed like him in our own personalities, who he made us to be. We're trying to take on his character in all the ways that he is. And so it's called spiritual formation. And we want to be formed like him. We want to be with Jesus and like Jesus more every day. And what we've got to do is to be aware of other forces that compete to form us in ways that are not the ways of Jesus. We know there's an upside to this technology, but we can no longer ignore the downside, especially in the emerging generations. Their brain wiring is happening while this addiction is forming the pathways in their mind. It's literally rewiring. Here's a little guy that no longer had his device. It's frightening. It's frightening. I talked to one of you whose brother at night was moving and making all this noise, and he realized his brother was playing the video game while he was asleep. It's because it is rewiring your brain. And the enemy wants us to live a distracted, sedated, and numb life, secretly stealing our time and attention. One dad, he developed an app. This is Joey Odom. These guys partner. RO Podcast, you can hit that QR code if you want to get this. We'll be using this, and this will be available later as well. But RO is an app to help you track, as a group of friends, how much time you're using, and it's a very friendly way to try to reduce the entertainment time online. And the reason that he developed this was he was at his son's soccer game, and his son was a lot littler. And his son's going down, hadn't ever scored before. He shoots the scoring goal. Everybody explodes, and they're so excited. And where is he looking? At his phone. What on his phone could be worth missing that picture? People, we are missing so much of life. We are missing eye contact. We're missing quiet moments. We're missing each other's hearts. And everybody that walks, I was sitting with our strategic team the other day, and we were just talking about our values as a church, and one of the highest ones, love, and what does that look like and everything. And it just struck me that every time, in fact, I just shared with them, I said, every time we walk into a room, it's all we're all looking for. I just want to be loved. And love doesn't come through the digital. It comes through human. And it comes from the Spirit of God. And these things are robbing us. And the goal is not to shame anybody here. Oh my goodness. Every one of us has done it. I sit in the meetings at times, and there's my phone, right? And I'm talking with you, and we're chatting, and then notice comes up, and I'm like, right? No, you don't know what I'm talking about. Younger generations are catching on. I was sitting with a couple. I get to, they're not regular church folks, but I get to be involved in their wedding. And so we were talking about it, and she noticed that her phone was sitting face down on the table at the restaurant, and she apologized. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought it was digital menus. I didn't know we didn't have paper ones. I'll put this away. I thought, okay, I need to learn from her. Because what was she saying? You are worth my full attention. This isn't about scoring spiritual points by being able to avoid a screen. It's about trying to engage in the life that God's given us a chance to live in and to take advantage of the relationships and the love that He's pouring through and the grace and the goodness and the wisdom that he's pouring through. And even in the broken relationships, when there's the conflict, he's like, come on, deal with it. I'll be with you. Stop escaping. Stop taking the drug. Stop looking away. Stop putting your head in the sand. You have a life to live. I want to live it in you and through you. So let's go. This is the invitation that's moving us as a team to say we want to move forward, and we all blow it. Man, part of this is about leaving work within work hours. You know, Fridays, Diana and I try to very consistently have our date night, and one of the things I have to do is avoid responsibility-laden communications on my phone. Because they'll come in, and then I'll be like, well, you have the wrong view of that. You know, in my mind, I'm like having this conversation because this person wasn't happy, and I'm supposed to have my day off and be dialing down so that I can be fully present with my wife. And God wants to bring life in that relationship. The thief comes to secretly steal our time and our attention, and he comes to kill as well. In Greek, thuo means to kill, to slay, to slaughter. Luke 15, the prodigal son, when they say, go slay the fatted calf, go thuo the fatted calf. In Acts 10, Peter has this vision of these animals that he could never eat before, and God tells him, get up, go and kill. Go up and thuo. 1 Peter says it this way, be alert and of sober mind. Your enemy, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion, looking for someone to what? Yeah, to devour. To eat you up alive. Research team, Dr. Jean Twang of San Diego State University, she looked at the significant rise in depressive symptoms, suicidality, suicidal deaths between 2010 and 2015, especially amongst adolescents 13 to 18, specifically how it affected females. Dr. Twang found that teens who reported more time on smartphones and social media were more likely to report symptoms of depression, anxiety, and suicidality than the teens who spent more time doing off-screen and relational face-to-face activities. Several years ago, I was talking with a young man, mid-20s, in the lobby of the church, and he said, my girlfriend just texted me that she wants to break up. I asked, how did you respond? He said, well, can we get together and talk in person? And her response was, no, I'm not very good at that. I found that text is better for me. And the sad thing is, she believes that. Text is easier, but text isn't better. Multiple studies in the U.S., Turkey, UK, and China have found that the exposure of an individual to social media, the more they have that, the more likely they're experiencing these symptoms: anxiety, depression, social anxiety, low self-esteem, narcissism, insomnia, inability to sleep well. Some of you are battling something on this list right now. Could it be that your digital habits are contributing to that? Could it be that you're getting cut off by an enemy who's very, very subtle, who wants to dislocate you from the very one who can give you life and give you hope and can talk about the value that you have? One of the pieces that moves me so much about this is we have these younger generations that don't even know the life that's being stolen from them, and those of us that are older as well. There's too much to miss out. And when we come in here, I have some reservation about spending an entire sermon talking about digital technology, okay? The preacher in me, just let's go verse. But Jesus said, don't just know what I've taught, he said, do what I have taught. And what he is dealing with is an enemy that's very shrewd. And when you come in here, if you're looking for Jesus, he is the answer. He is what you need. He's what you need today. And in that emptiness, in whatever it is for you, if it's an anxiety, if it's deep self-doubt, you came to the right place. Any church centered on Jesus, you came to the right place because you came to the right person. And today, maybe the takeaway for you, maybe I'm that voice that's like, wah, 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 wah. You're like, yeah, you're right. Because your heart is aching. God wants to meet you today. He wants to meet you today. He wants to care well for you today. He wants the person next to you to pray for you. He wants to invite you to the front, or on the sides with our prayer team afterward. This is what we're going for, God. We're trying to get closer to God. That's why we're doing all this. You know, since the adoption of smartphones in the last 12 years, rates of teen depression and suicide have skyrocketed. It literally is not an exaggeration to say that Generation Z is on the brink of a mental health crisis. I used to think that was just hyperbole until I started realizing how this affects the brain and how it affects relational development. The thief comes to steal and to kill and to destroy. The word in Greek for destroy, it means to perish, to take away life. It could be that you're still existing, but life is not really present. It's kind of an interesting word. It's the void of flourishing. And the thief comes only to steal and kill and to destroy flourishing life. You know, research has shown that not only for the younger generations, the phones have made it difficult, it's decreased their ability to navigate the physical world. And it's diminishing the social skills, lowering their ability to handle stress and conflict and anxiety. It's also destroying healthy sexuality through constant, unlimited access to pornography. Smartphones give kids this portal to pornography, and that exposure destroys intimacy in marriage. Dan Fairley, he's the head of a Bible department of a Christian college that has seen thousands of students over the last decades, and I happened to get a moment with him, and I wanted to know, because my heart's drawn to young people, and I said, what's different between young adults today and young adults 20 years ago? And he said, nothing has changed except for two issues. One is the culture does not disciple them into their gender, and two is they have unlimited access to pornography. And what used to be a struggle in sexual intimacy in marriages after 20 or 30 or 40 years is now where young couples are starting. We don't want to just stand by and say, oh, well. We want to find a path that can lead to hope and to health. And the beautiful thing is Jesus, he does say the thief comes to secretly steal and destroy a flourishing life. But I have come that you could have life. And you could have it to the fullest. You could have it to the max. This is such a cool... When I did not know Christ and I heard this expression, I was like, I need to learn more about Jesus. Because I want that life. Now, some parents might be saying, this is going to be tough because we've already gave our kids smartphones. How do we rein it back in? I'm not suggesting that this will be easy. It is not going to be easy. I keep searching for the verse that Jesus goes, come follow me, it's going to be super easy. Haven't found it. But we all want the best for our kids, for your kids, for all of our kids together. We're trying to work out how to guide them and protect them in this world. Parents, my heart goes out to you. I thank God that my kids were born before smartphones were born. But they were at about ages, I think, 8, 11, and 13 when they came out. So we had our own challenges that took place, and those have only gotten tougher as the years go by. And therefore, parents, this is going to be tough. So you have to be tough. You have to be tough for your kids. Your child's brain is not fully developed through adolescence. It's not. And these devices are literally rewiring brains. That's not figurative language, especially through puberty. And here's the thing, you actually do know more about life than your kids do. You really do. And as you love them well, you need to be strong. There's no mammal, we're not just mammals, but sharing that likeness. There's no other mammal required parenting so long. There's no mammal that was created in the image of God. There's no mammal that has the complexity of this brain that has been given. Help them. They don't know what they're doing. And the knowledge is coming up, and I don't mean that disrespectfully for any young people. I don't at all. I have great compassion there. It's just what we don't know about it. You know, if you think about the things that have happened when people didn't know about it, you all know this, that Coca-Cola used to have cocaine in it. Hey, kids, let's have some Coke, you know? Man, I feel way better, Mom, thanks. The reason I think churches should be talking about this is because it's no longer an individual problem, but a society-wide. Sociologists call this a collective action problem. That everybody wants to change, but nobody really can because nobody's found a way to do it. Our unhealthy relationship with devices is wreaking havoc on us personally and relationally and spiritually, and we got to find a way as a community. Research shows that teenagers have a love-hate relationship with their smartphone and social media, and generally say something like this: I wish I didn't even have it, but I'm afraid that I'm going to get left out. Students, man, have a dream. Have a dream about an experience in the analog world, in the physical world, not just in the digital realm. There's this place for that, but it can't take over. I'd love if every family in this place had a conversation about digital media use, about social media, about devices. At least start the conversation. And if you got kids at home, then how about just do that? Just start the conversation with them. You could even say, Pastor Kainu gave me an assignment that we need to have a conversation. And if you're like, I don't know what to do, then just share your heart. Just say this. Just say, you know what? I love you with all my heart. I would give you my own life if that's what it took. And I want so many good things for you. And there's so much research out that talks about the impact of digital media that leads to anxiety and depression, even suicidality. And I want you to have this life full of joy. And I'm just not sure that what's happening right now for you and your friends is leading to that end. I would love to learn from you. I would love to talk with you and to learn. And one thing I also learned from being a youth pastor for a long time is there's a great question you can ask, especially your teenager, and you can just say this: if you were a parent, what do you think you'd tell your kid to do? It really... And this isn't about conformity to the group and shame if you don't conform, but there is power in collective action as a community. Because remember, it's a collective action problem. And so we're asking everyone to take seriously that we might be part of a collective action solution. It's not just so you can be in a club. It's so that we can work together. And can I suggest that we take the next step, that all of us, that next step is to take those 28 days, starting in a couple of weeks, and see how it has affected my life. Is my life not better because of this? Is our family's experience not better? And to see what happens within you. I love the story from one family within our church where they got kids that are anywhere from 4 up to, I think, about 11 or so. And they have been fairly limited on their devices and their screen times and all that. But they had always wanted to have their main living room where the TV is, to just like, let's just pull it out. So they talked about it for about a year, and finally, last fall, they unplugged, they pulled the cord out of the wall, rearranged the furniture, and they had this vision of like a relational space that they would do puzzles and crafts and play games and all of this kind of thing. And so they did that, and they began to do this with their kids. They got this little devotional book. I've not seen it. It's called Roar. And they would say, hey kids, you know what, at night we're gonna reflect on a Bible verse, we're gonna try to memorize it, and the kids are real engaged in the book. And they said this, that after, it said, we sensed a shift in the kids' morning attitude after the first week. They started to come downstairs wanting to recite the Bible verse from the day before. They were more engaged, almost vibrant, and ready for the day. Because before they went to bed, what were they loading into their head? They were loading the scriptures. They were loading faces. They were loading loving words. They were loading, we are a family. We were loading, this is so much more important than what any screen can project. Isn't it crazy that as a parent, that takes courage? What does that say about our devotion to a TV screen? On March 16th, I hope you'll say, hey, for 28 days, my TV screens are going away. It's going to look a little different for everybody. If your job is in social media, you're an influencer, it's going to look different for you. And even though there's a choose your adventure quality to this, we are passionately inviting to a threefold invitation regarding your digital diet. One is this: make your smartphone dumb. Okay? Think of distraction versus utility. Make your smartphone dumb. Leave on your emails wrong list. The distractions. Cut out your emails, games, news apps, social media, web browser, your shopping. Shop now while you can. And YouTube. But what remains on your phone is, your phone, text, calendar, airline apps, keyless entry so you can get in the garage, weather, camera. Leave those things on. If you have anything that you can do, that would be a distraction on your phone. You can move it to your laptop, do that, especially if it's work-related. Some of you need a minimalist phone. Like you want to go in deep end of the pool, then go get the light phone. It has calling, alarm, directions, music, notes, and calendar. It has no browser, no text, no emails, no alerts, and no notifications. How sweet would that be? If that sounds appealing to you, and I promise I'm not getting commissions on this. Maybe you get a flip phone. Number one, make your smartphone dumb. Number two, eliminate all other screens for personal use. Now, put your seatbelt on for this. Gaming devices, streaming devices, cable television, etc. Okay? And before you panic and write terrible reviews about Vancouver Church, recognize you don't have to do any of this if you don't want to. But I bet you something deep down inside of you wants to, and we're here to call you up to your best. We're here to call you into a place of discomfort. Jesus does it all the time. We're just trying to pass the invitation on. When are you going to get an opportunity like this? We all think, man, I would love to do this, but we never structure it on our own. Okay, great. Let's do it together as a team, as an extended family. And parents, I would even suggest this, that you make it mandatory. Because your kids most likely aren't going to be like, I'm all in, here you go. Remember, you pay the bill. And you can blame the pastor too. And I bet you that your son or daughter will thank both of us someday. And it's going to be uncomfortable. That's why hundreds of us are doing it together. But what's it going to feel like to have that digital clutter removed from our lives? Okay? So that's the second item. Eliminate all other screens for personal use. Three is limit digital technology to only work and work hours. I'm going to skip that quote. I'm going to ask our musicians to come up. As Darren Whitehead was researching to do this for Church of the City, he wanted to do it for 7 days. And he saw in 10 different sources that said, you got to do it for at least a month. Because after 7 days, all you will be is in the low of withdrawals. And you won't have experienced the euphoria of freedom. And literally a reset for your brain and for your patterns. I encourage you to invite a neighbor, especially somebody that maybe isn't really confident in Jesus or not part of a church. You'll have a great conversation. They just might join you as well. And just like cleaning out your closets, if any of you are familiar with the KonMari method of piling up all your clothes and then keeping only the ones that spark joy. As goofy as that sounds, that's what we're trying to do. Clear off our phones and then see what we introduce back in later. Guys, this is going to be a hassle. It's going to be really inconvenient because these devices are built for convenience. But just face it. Wear it like a badge. This is inconvenient. But as much as I want all that scrolling, all that feed, all that stimulation, there's something I want more. That's how I want to be closer to Jesus. And this is an exploration to see how this can help. I want to invite you to stand as we close out. Prayer team, I want to ask you if you would come down and be available. They are available, as Jeremy mentioned earlier, that we know that the Lord is doing his work. Some of it's on this topic. Some of it has nothing to do with this at all. Anytime during this song, we want to ask you to come down for any kind of prayer, praying for somebody else, healing of any kind. Come on down.